You have nothing. You are nothing.
Know your past and know your future.
You are nothing. You can build nothing.
Know your past and know your future.
You can produce nothing. You can create nothing.
Your present is the gift that can prepare you like a future. Read between the line, hit you like taxes and fines. Know your future, know your future, know your future. Or get stuff into the hooper.
All right, we're back. We're back at it. It is us, Tat Wizard and Abran Maldonado. Know your future. We just here today to let you know what's going on in the AI space. Abran, how you feeling, my brother?
Good, brother, man. It's been a minute, but there's a lot cooking every day in this space, so we got to make sure we come back and check in with the people and let them know what's going on. But happy to be here. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. That's a fact. That's a fact. If you don't know, we tape on a Friday. It may not come out on a Friday, but you'll see it when you see it. It's all good. Listen, I don't know if you noticed, there's a lot of robots popping out. It's getting ready to get crazy. It's, there's Unitree. What else? It's, now I'm off top.
Sunday just came out and did their announcement.
Yeah.
The Neo just got announced, Figure. Yep. It's funny. So, I get on the hype train just like everybody else. I see the robots, I see the demos. But, I do have people in the space that were at the demo and from an AI perspective can talk to me and know what's going on in under the hood or reverse engineer it and also tell me, what's actually like smoke and mirrors versus like what's the real deal. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the things that we saw from that first demo was what they call teleoperated. So what that means is there's somebody literally in the other room with an Xbox controller or off-site that's controlling the robot. So the robot's not really doing anything. It's a person operating that robot. And a lot of the self-autonomous driving is the same thing. I think Tesla is actually going to have offshored drivers of those cars.
For the robo-taxis.
With the robo-taxis, yeah. So who's actually achieving autonomous robots? No one yet. I think a lot of the demos have been teleoperated. What I did find interesting with Sunday Robotics is they had a way of teaching the robot with these, they almost look like the Nintendo glove, where you put on these two robot gloves.
The power glove.
You fold your laundry to teach it the dexterity of how to fold your laundry.
And then it does it autonomously next time.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
There has to be a teaching component to teach you how to do something, but you're wearing these two power gloves to go and do that next.
That's interesting. That's fire, though. That's fire. Okay, so we do have an explosion of hardware in the space, but it's not yet applicable to autonomy because the AI just isn't there yet for just injecting into the robot and go. But I mean, we're talking 2-3 years most before that's like every day?
It really is about timing. And, shout out to Marques Brownlee, another homie from New Jersey. They are all scared to death of Marques because when it is a hardware that makes big claims, like a wearable, like a robot, or an EV, a new car, he'll call you out and he'll do a review, a really honest review, and let people know what's up and show where the hype kind of ends and where the actual application kind of begins or doesn't begin.
Right.
But that's happened with wearables. I have all the wearables here, the Rabbit, the Plaud, the R1, the glasses, the Metas. And there's a lot of ambitious claims that just aren't useful yet. And sometimes they do a big release before the technology is actually useful because no one wants to wait. To my point, my homie's point, Andrew, who was actually at the robot demo day, he was like, the real companies that are doing the real robot development are in stealth still. They're like taking the Apple approach that Steve Jobs used to do. Was like, we're not going to announce anything until it's ready to ship the next day, and do a mass release.
Right.
Everyone is doing these big announcements years before the release of the product, before we can get our hands on it. Elon already did the robo-taxi and the Tesla robot announcement. We got to wait 3-4 years before anyone can get their hands on it.
Right. Right.
You know,
But
because it's the pre-order game.
right.
Do $100 pre-order now. You get 1 million people to do $100 pre-order. That
The
100
product,
mil
yeah.
is what you use to go build the thing that you just unveiled
Yeah.
in aluminum
Yeah.
foil and cardboard.
Right. That's funny. All right, so yeah, so it's get it. We'll wait and see, but get it now, and then you'll get it later type situation. And
Yeah.
I mean, all right, so it's I had a point. All right, it's we'll it. The problem is everybody wants it now, right? And we'll see what happens later. But then when it does happen later, and it is autonomous and works the way, then people gonna be tight. Then people gonna be like, "Damn, I wish this wasn't working so well," because now I see why our jobs are fucked up.
I mean, I think what everyone has to understand is that, like, this is not sci-fi anymore, right?
Right.
So at least understand all of this is real, all of this is possible. When you get your hands on it, when it gets rolled out, when they're selling it at Costco or Walmart, all of that has to do more with economics than it actually has to do with the technology. But the
Great
technology is real and it's coming. It's just a matter of
Right.
when.
Right. So if you do your best at your job now because you see what they're getting ready to want to replace you with.
Yeah.
So,
At least they're giving you a head start to get
right.
to get ready.
Right. Work your ass off. Don't be like, this ain't part of my job, because it's gonna be part of the robot's job. Just know that.
Yeah, at some point.
All right, so we've had some updates in models. I guess let's start with Google. Google has now updated to Gemini 3. Unpack how incredible this new model is in the space.
Yeah, I mean, there's some benchmarks out there, and the benchmarks are just these tests that they give to the different AI systems. And when a new model comes out, that's usually their way of marketing to the world of like, look how we performed against the other models that are out right now. And every few months, when a new model comes out, they take the lead by a slim margin. So right now, Gemini 3 outperforms OpenAI GPT 5.1, Claude 4.5. But then there are certain areas like coding. I think 4.5 with Claude is still a little bit ahead. So there are different tests that they give it, different categories that they test it in. But when they do a big announcement like this, there's a new leader on the block, right? New leader of the pack. And then in a few months, 4.5 with Claude might go to 4.6. 5.1 with OpenAI might go to 5.2. And then they become the leader, right? So right now, in this window, the new guy on the block is I mean, Gemini 3 is just amazing. From all the things that you would use ChatGPT for, that you would use Gemini for, it just reached a whole nother level of contextual understanding. And what that means is that it really understands your intent. It understands what you mean. It's just like, are you listening to me or are you hearing me? Right? Because a lot of these things, you have to be very literal. With the smarter they get, the more intelligence they get, you don't have to be as literal, or it understands the layer, the intent layer of like, this is what you want from me. You might not have said it in the best way, but I know that this is what you want as the output.
So your prompting doesn't have to be as intense now.
Doesn't have to be perfect. No. And let's just think from vibe coding, right? Like, for those of you who follow us and know what we mean by vibe coding, where like you could really just have a conversation that turns into an app that you're developing. Right. That you see that in the vibe coding responses when you're talking to a vibe coding platform like with Gemini 3 or Claude or Lovable, right? It's like, this is what I want. I want to have an app for, finding all the food trucks in Brooklyn, right? You might not lay out the design of that. It's a dope app, right? Yeah. You might not lay out the design for that in the best way with your words from a prompt standpoint. But Gemini 3 is going to be like, I know what you want and I know how to cook and I know how to make this look really dope for you. So I get what you want. I understand your intent and I'm going to do the heavy lifting on my side to really provide you, based on my understanding of UX design, product design, the best layout that I'm going to recommend to you. And then go from there. So that's the thing. It's just like, sometimes it helps you in a way that maybe you don't know how to help yourself. And if you were trying to give your core instructions to another human, that product is going to look kind of kind of shaky at first. It's like they're just following your literal instructions.
Yeah.
You get on Fiverr, you get on Upwork, you try and get a designer, and I'm like, yeah, I did what you told me to do, right?
Yeah. So
Where Gemini is like, no, I know what you need. I know
Yeah.
what's going to look good for what you want.
As the kids say, it sees the vision.
Yeah.
It knows where you're coming from. All right, that's incredible. You know what? I haven't. They just announced it. I haven't dived in yet. I love VO. Well, it was VO3. I don't know. Is it going to be VO4 now? 3.1.
No,
3.2?
yeah, it's VO3, Nano Banana 2. So that's
Nano
the
Banana
image
2.
generator.
That's the image
That's
generator.
probably the standard right now from an image generation standpoint. Is working in VO3 and Nano Banana 2, editing images as well. From a marketing design standpoint, it's gonna be crazy.
No, it's gonna be
So I'm gonna
crazy.
test it out. I mean, all holiday break, my plan is to just go crazy with some demos and hopefully share some here.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna wait for that. All right, and then so ChatGPT still on its model though, still popping out dope ass features. They just introduced group chat. I think that's going to be something that really functionally takes off because people already share memes. They share thoughts and stuff in social media groups or WhatsApp groups or just text groups. This is going to turn into a whole thing. What you think?
Yeah, so before we talk about that, I think there was a feature, I don't know if we really talked about it before, with parental controls that I even set up this week for my own son. So my son uses ChatGPT, but he uses a child account under my parent account.
Okay.
So I could put some settings. I can activate or turn off certain features for him to mess with. And now I could even join in a session with him and have a chat that we're both contributing to, and having ChatGPT be the third person in the room.
That's dope.
So I think from a work standpoint, from just having fun with it, having a group chat with your friends, but then having ChatGPT chime in, that could be dope. Right? There could be a lot of fun ways of doing that. But the reason that's a little different than like projects or creating a workspace for your team, because I have that too, right? I have a team account with ChatGPT that all my team members that have our email address can use, but everyone's starting new sessions, right? We're all in our own kind of silo chat sessions, even if it's on the same topic. But in this one now, we could all be in the same chat session together as a team. Collaborating, yeah. So as almost like taking on features like Google Docs, or in a group chat, both of those use cases are going to get really interesting. And like we said, man, ChatGPT ain't going away, and they're really trying to be your one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah, I see it. And it's interesting. All right, so that was one of the... Well, I also want to get to projects versus GPTs, but it's interesting, though, because we have it on the doc to talk about. There's this thing going around that 95% of the AI startups are in a failure, right? And the worry is that it's creating a bubble that, if the money can't be made from independent companies that are going to base their thing, base an idea off of the foundational models, then we're gonna at some point collapse. That bubble's gonna collapse because then the GDP, it's not gonna rise because all of these companies can't get off the ground because the foundational models keep seeing these features or whatever's or ideas and kind of incorporating them into the new model or how the model works or whatever the case is. And ChatGPT, with that target in mind of wanting to be your one-stop shop, are probably the leaders of the pack of that. And we've seen that happen in social media over the last decade or so, with not to call them out per se, but Meta, they don't let a new feature get on the board without replicating it and making sure that their user base has access to it. Which effectively, nerfs anything that's coming, because your whole thing is I have this new feature. Yeah. Now I just got to get the user base, and then the biggest platform on the planet with the biggest user base says, "Oh, well, guess what? We have that feature too." why would any user go over to this whole new thing that they got to download or interact with, set up an account for? Like, setting up an account is the most, I got to remember where the password is. It's the most tedious thing. So, if the foundational models are going to keep ingesting all of the ideas that come from any startup, how, is this going to be a bubble that pops? One, and then two, if it's not a bubble that pops, because the data centers are still going to get built, right? The infrastructure still needs expansion. How do the foundational models then replace the ability to make money if they're ingesting everything that comes on board? Like, how do we not be in trouble, I guess, is the basis of that question, if it's possible.
Well, I mean, I've been here from the beginning, and I saw it from the beginning, and it's been frustrating, to be honest. As an AI developer, from the beginning, seeing how this pattern started, I was worried from the beginning. Where, think about it, with Apple, we saw this where, they came out with iTunes. They came out with the Apple Store, and then they create an opportunity for a marketplace to exist of all these apps developed for iOS.
Yep.
Right, but then eventually they come out with their marquee foundational iOS apps that by default you get with every iPhone, with every computer. Right?
Yeah.
You get GarageBand, you get podcasts, and soon you're like, oh, I don't have to use this other music editing app because you gave me GarageBand already, and it's kind of like baked in. And I remember in the beginning, early days with OpenAI, it was like, oh, you're creating a foundational technology for everyone to build with. That's awesome. But what they did was they made their own apps with their own foundational technologies. And even in the beginning, I even recommended this. I had a conversation with OpenAI. I was like, you know what? You guys should probably make your own apps for the things that we all need. Mm-hmm. Like an education GPT or like a math GPT. Like there are certain things that we're just going to need AI, like baseline. Everyone's going to need that, right?
Right.
And I thought I was being like, oh, we should find a generous way to get back.
That makes sense.
Right? It does. And they did that tenfold, right? Like they did that for literally every wave of like, here are new ideas of ways to use a GPT. They just added it to GPT. Yeah. And every new announcement that happens, it kills startups, right? There are several startups out there who've raised money to find a niche in how to use AI. And then in the next update, they are now offering that niche included in the feature set of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So you have to stay, as a developer, you have to stay nimble, right? You can raise by putting all your eggs in that one basket. But then what do you go back to your investors and say when ChatGPT has just taken over your market and you got to pivot, or you got to come out with another product, right, and feel like there's another niche out there? And believe me, there are plenty of verticals and niche use cases out there of AI that they have not touched. There's just too many.
Yeah.
But it is a growing, spreading radius that the more that they develop, and they're developing faster at a faster clip now because they're using AI to develop their new features. So before it might take them 6 months to a year to roll out new features for ChatGPT, now that's cut in half. Yeah. Because they're vibe coding their own new features.
I'd say a third
at the time.
I'd say a third. I think we've seen stuff come out 2 months instead of 6 now.
Yeah. And it's just going to get faster. Right. But then also, there is still right now an opportunity for ChatGPT to do something crazy and create this marketplace where right now you have maybe like a dozen what they call connectors or apps that live within ChatGPT, right? You have Canva, right? So if you want to make a Canva presentation in ChatGPT, you tag Canva, right? You at Canva and say, oh, make this presentation for me, and it's pulling in and integrating that app.
Right.
So there is a world where like they can make this marketplace where everyone can create an app and upload it into ChatGPT, and let people use your app that you built in ChatGPT, and then monetize that, right?
Right,
Like
right.
there's ways to monetize, what apps, what leaderboards, what apps are getting used the most. 1 million people used your app in ChatGPT, and then you get a royalty or some kind of rev share, off of ChatGPT usage to your app. So they're going to get more creative with it, but there is no way to stop this, like, unless they pivot. But I don't see them pivoting. The more that they grow, the more features that they add to their, because they want to be your one-stop shop, the more it's going to disrupt innovation outside of ChatGPT.
Yeah. Okay, so then the goal is make it to where you can be within the ChatGPT ecosystem, and don't look to build your own thing outside of that, because they will come for your ass.
Or stay vertical. You got to find really niche use cases in different industries that they just have not touched or don't plan on touching. Healthcare is one of them, because they are deathly afraid of taking on too much data that has to be HIPAA compliant. Right, that has too many legalities, too much baggage attached to it. So I feel like if anyone's developing in the healthcare space, they want no part of it, right? Because it's too much compliance that comes with having that kind of data in the ChatGPT convos. Interesting.
Okay, so but then you might have another model that's going to come for you in that space, because I know Google's working on something. We're gonna talk to somebody. We just got to get authorization, but I know Google's working on something in the healthcare space that's related.
But Google made it open source. So what Google did is, hey, we made a language model specific for healthcare that's open source.
Okay.
If you're an AI developer in the healthcare space, here you go. Use it for free. You know what I mean?
But how long before they then incorporate the features that you build that you use for free into the model that they end up bringing to market for this?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, all right. Watch yourself. That's all. You're going to be in the space. Watch yourself. Let me ask you this: is another option, like how we talked about a couple episodes back, where NVIDIA is dropping this that computer that they put out that was server grade level, is building your own model from scratch a way to fight, or does it not matter, because if they see a feature working somewhere, they're just going to incorporate it, and they still got the user base?
Well, all right. So if the features become what they say commoditized, right? It was just like even level playing field. Everyone has the same AI features. Then you got to buy in, or you got to break out of ChatGPT for different reasons. Because you don't trust what they do with their data, with your data. You don't like their business practices. Like, you want to go a different route for different reasons, or it's cheaper, right? Obviously, there's a cost to using ChatGPT, and you feel like what you can do could be cheaper.
Yeah.
I just met an amazing tech admin at I think New Brunswick schools in New Jersey.
Okay.
That's teaching kids from the hood how to stand up their own language models.
Yeah.
Because they have a bunch of these like eSports, gaming, and video computers that they're not using for eSports anymore, for gaming. And they have the GPUs to stand up a open source language model.
GPUs, yeah.
On with those same cards.
Yeah.
That's amazing, right? And
Yes,
like
it is.
whatever they stand up in the school districts is going to be more than capable of handling any issues or any type of AI use that school district needs. And they have the additional security of knowing this is all in-house, right?
Yeah.
This is not going to get intercepted. This is not going to get hacked. It's not going into the cloud to some other company. All of our data, our student data, is in-house in our computer lab. We don't got to worry about nothing else.
Important.
That's an amazing skill for all school
Smart.
districts to learn.
Yeah.
And that's also an amazing skill to teach our young people. You know what I mean? Our young brothers
Absolutely.
and sisters to do that. So there are going to be use cases where, like, you know what? I don't care what ChatGPT is coming out with. I prefer to do this open source in-house on our own joints.
Yeah. Smart, real smart. I hope other schools see that example, and if they have those resources sitting there. I mean, I am interested in, since you said that, why are they not using the eSports? But that's a different conversation.
Exactly.
But yeah, all right, cool. So, well, speaking of, right, the foundational models, right? It's been going around. AOC said something recently that worried about the bubble that we're in because of this. There's only like 7 companies going back and forth with the money, and that's what based the GDP growth off of. But if it doesn't grow outside of, like these startups that are happening, where does the money come from? Where does the growth come from eventually? If it's only the 7 companies, spreading this money between each other, does the GDP then, shut down, and does the bubble pop? Are we in a, are we, they're likening it to the 99 tech bubble, the URL issue, where people were buying all these URLs, but the actual website infrastructure wasn't up and running yet, and so they're worried about that bubble popping. But I mean, personally, I'm like, even if, we may go through a situation, a recession, whatever in the country, but even if that's the case, like the 99 tech bubble that popped, it's going to circle back around and be such growth that it's going to be unfathomable. Like, we went from people buying URLs that you couldn't apply to an actual website. Then a few years later, websites was running there. If that was 99, by '05, we had MySpace, we had shit popping out. We had Google, YouTube, we had a bunch of shit popping out that just, has changed our lives now. So are we in a bubble? Is it going to pop? And if it is it going to be that bad? Because we still see the technology and the infrastructure coming.
I mean, we're both music industry guys. For those of you who understand that world, I'll use this analogy. Has the music industry gone anywhere? No. How are they printing money still? Yes. Tat, on how many fingers can you count how many actual major labels there are at the very top?
Oh, now? Man, it's come down. It's come down a lot. All of
Five,
those,
6, right? Like,
yeah, if that. Like, all of those imprints that we grew up with and all of those, labels that we knew, they're all merged into like 1 to 4 things now. So
yeah, exactly. So there's the foundational layer, right, of like the core models, the language models, and then you have the application layer, right? All the apps that we use on a daily basis. That's still a market of, let's say, 20 million apps at that layer, right? With some getting trimmed off the side when the foundational guys come out with new features. Some of these applications you don't need anymore, but it's still a marketplace. And then at this level, if any of the applications get $1 billion bag to compete at the foundational layer, then you get more people to compete up here, and that's how Claude started. There was OpenAI. A few people left Claude. They got I think 300 million was their first bag, and to compete at the foundational layer against OpenAI with some former OpenAI people. So, if anything here kind of outgrows the application layer, then they graduate up to the foundational layer, and then you got to make more room for other people at that level. But, you got to make your money here at the application level first, and then grow out. Or, like we know in the music industry, you go independent. You know what I mean? You go independent, or you go the equivalent in the AI world to going independent is going open source, right? And you go open source, and they don't like those guys because, it's like when the Rockin effect happened. It's just like they're doing numbers, they're charting, but they're still independent. How are they? How are they doing that? And artists that want to stay at that level, and that's what DeepSeek was. DeepSeek was like, yo, I'm creating an AI that's as good as the foundational layer at a fraction of the cost with old machines. So that means I don't need $1 billion in chips to do what you're doing. That's what scared the market at first. It was like, oh, well, wait a minute. We just asked for $100 billion, and they're over here saying we did it with 36 mil.
Yeah.
And that was the real disruption.
I think it was 6 mil, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
right.
6 mil. It was crazy. But then they also said that they didn't use NVIDIA chips. Then NVIDIA was like, no, we did give them some chips. So it's like, all right,
There's always back room, it's like the PR isn't always the press release doesn't tell the whole story.
Right.
Because they were claiming, oh, we're using old computers. But then the other claim was that they were back channeling the real chips from NVIDIA through Singapore, right? So it's like, who do you believe?
Right.
On that front, and it's China, so the media is limited. The sources are limited, so you don't really know what's going on.
Right. Right.
But I hope that analogy of just like IDJ is Island Def Jam. We Warner Electra Atlanta. Like you had mergers up there.
Yeah.
But I think there's an opportunity for people who are popping at the application layer to merge and compete with
On the foundational level.
at the foundational level.
Yeah. All right. Smart. So be intentional and get to work and we can make it happen. And then either way, it's going to affect your regular job because the AI is coming for it anyway. Foundational or startup doesn't matter.
All right. So then listen. So then your enterprise, your employer, is in the middle.
Yeah.
Your employer is in the middle, saying, I could either make a deal with the foundational layer and replace staff, or I could make a deal with the application layer and replace staff. But either way, I'm replacing staff.
Yeah. Either way.
Or we build something in-house with either of these layers to do something on our own with open source. So you're seeing kind of three different ways, but that's
still reducing staff. It's not maybe replacing everything because then you need people to help with stuff, but you're still gonna not need everybody there. There's gonna be people that do repetitive or things that are just not intensive, and the AI is definitely gonna consume that. All right. So speaking of China, which we just spoke on, they just did something that the U.S. and the world is going to have to pay attention to at the very least, if not actually counteract to do something with. So they just fully implemented in their car manufacturers full robotic workforce. The word is, it looks like iRobot, like nothing but robots in there working 24/7, stopping down barely to replace each other's battery packs, nonstop work, looking for some level of a breakthrough by 2027. But I mean, look at the pressure that puts on the rest of the world as a workforce. If you're now going out and saying, yo, let us make it for you. We can make it at this cost. It's never going to go above this cost. We can get it done within this time frame, which is very short, because they never stop down to not work on whatever thing that is. So if it's as much as building a car, if it normally took, even with an automated line, with the workers getting off at 5 o'clock and shutting the system down, if it took 2 days to 3 days to make a car fully put together, which is an incredible speed anyway, it's now taking a day and a half, if not a day. You know what I'm saying? So how do you compete with that as a country that has a GDP looking to, make money for the country, and your workforce is, has to stop down at 5 o'clock, or, you have to implement these extra shifts, which cost more. So the cost effectiveness makes it, less valuable, or whatever the case is. So it's like, the globe is going to have to compete with this. And this is part of the AI arms race that we keep talking about, that we're in. Is, yes, we should have this level of safety that we're thinking about when dealing with these things that could be as strong as a nuclear weapon, but we can't necessarily stop to wait for this level of safety if China or any country is over here like, yo, we're up here with it. We don't give a fuck. It puts everything in a rush and speeds things up to the point that is going to cause some pain somewhere, right? I don't know. I don't even know if I have a question with that. I just wanted to point that out.
It's real, and I think what's uncomfortable for us is that we read in the history books when this has happened in the past, but we've rarely lived it in real time. And I think we just have to come to terms with, we are in real time what happened to candle makers, and people who were training horses and, running businesses around everyone riding horses or pulled wagons and moving to automation, automotives, right, and
Yeah.
electricity.
The
Right?
Industrial
There's a lot of people who
Revolution.
got replaced and put and displaced
Yeah.
in that window, and we read it in those dusty history books.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it in real time. We're like, there is displacement that's going to happen. There's upskilling that needs to happen. There's rethinking about our careers. They're like, do we do something that requires more? That's more humanities based. That's more soft skills based. Because if you work a job that is what they call a if-then task, like, you know, if you see this, press this button, or if you see that, move this from left to right,
That's
it's a
outta here.
wrap, right?
That's outta here.
And but you might create a new opportunity similar to what happened with like Whole Foods, where like people who are interested in what they call cause-related marketing, or like, you know, how things are developed, organic food, free-range food, created a whole industry from people who opted out of going to ShopRite and wanted to go to Whole Foods or, you know, the local fresh market, just because there were less ingredients, less processed, and even though it's more expensive, right, you were fine with that because of you were picking with your dollar what you wanted. And I think there's gonna be an option for that soon, where there might be products. Homeboy just did it, or the movie director that put in his end credits, no AI was used in making this movie. And to show people, you know, I think that was at the end. It was like the last sentence of the end credits of the show or the movie. I think you're going to see the reverse from a marketing tactic of up front with a big sticker.
This was made by AI.
No,
And
or this was made by humans. No
this
AI
was
was
made by him.
used
Okay, yeah.
in making this product
Yeah.
to justify the cost and the time that it took
Right,
to get me this product.
right.
And it's going to drive a whole market of people who were just against AI products. Now, mind you, on the other side, there's going to be things that are being developed faster, quicker, cheaper with AI.
Yeah.
That's going to provide benefit, or with more, you know, when it comes to safety, it's just like, you know, the safety was checked by AI, you know, not with human eyes. You know, in certain things, you're going to want that.
Yeah.
On certain things over here, there's going to be a whole market that's going to be created that is going to take longer, takes more time, it's going to cost more, but it's because it's human made. Not even man made anymore. Human
made. Yeah.
Human made.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. We talked about that with that conundrum. Yeah, it's definitely coming down to that. Premium is going to be the human made. The saturation from AI is going to be like we're not really seeing it right now, so maybe people aren't thinking about it. But like we think, oh, it's already so saturated, the AI slop, but the AI slop is going to get actually really good, and then it's just going to be nonstop. Well, I'm just going to use AI, and so the saturation is going to be worse than the saturation of, you know, local hip hop artists thinking that they can be a rapper just because they can do auto tunes. Like, it's going to be crazy. So then it's going to be, like you said, like, oh, well, let's stop down and actually produce a thing, and then people are going to really appreciate that thing.
But I mean, sometimes it doesn't even matter. So this just happened recently. It wasn't even on our agenda to talk about, but you know, this song went viral. I Run. Everyone thought it was Georgia Smith's vocals. It was made by this artist Haven. But then when you look at Haven's pages, no other music on his page. Just like popped out of nowhere with this one track. And no credit to Georgia
Is this the
Smith.
country western thing?
No, it was like an EDM joint, a remix
Okay.
of Georgia Smith that was popping.
Okay.
And people started putting two and two together. Like, wait a minute. Like, if she's not being credited, then she came out and she was like, "This ain't me." People started to realize after it charted, after it
Yeah.
went viral, that it
Yeah.
might be AI.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you liked the song before you knew that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Jazzy Jeff, the DJ, he said this where, like, because people were asking with different DJing softwares that he's using and Serato and everything. He was like, if I'm at a music festival and there's 10,000 people in the audience and you are in the last row, you are the 10,000th person there, I'm all the way in the back, you are just enjoying yourself, vibing. You don't know what tools I'm using. You don't know what console I have up there, what's in my laptop. You're in the audience just vibing and chilling. So at some point, we got to stop laptop watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just enjoy the output for what it is.
Yeah.
and not stopping yourself from enjoying it to be like, well, show me what software you used
Yeah, what is that?
to make that. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, great point. Great point. I mean, there's a lot to, and we're going to circle back and we're going to get some panelists. We're going to talk about what's going on with music and in the AI space, and Janae Monet or whatever the young lady's name is on the AI, and the people that they feel like it's ripped off. Which ironically, people didn't say, "Oh, that sounds like me," until after she came out. But you got K Michelle upset, you got Victoria Monet upset, but they should not, if they feel like that's the case, that's not good. But we'll discuss that. But yeah, there's a lot there in that space of, is it good or bad, or is it creative, is it not creative? So there's a lot there to touch on. But yeah, it's an interesting situation going on there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, and going back to the bubble, and people just hit me this week like, "Yo, what's the hot AI to invest in?" I'm like, there ain't none. Like, they're all private.
Open AI.
They're no one's gone to IPO yet. They're all private.
Well, right, facts.
So, what happens when they do go to IPO?
Yeah.
They're going to be zillionaires.
Well, he's trying. Yeah, OpenAI is trying to have $1 trillion valuation out the door, right? Like they're trying.
That's why they're holding. I mean, everyone's holding off because they know their valuation is going to keep growing and growing. By the time they do go to IPO, it's just going to be everyone who I know, who doesn't even use AI on a daily basis, is going to come up with some bread to make their investment and buy some stock.
Yeah.
So that you're going to see a boom in the economy when everyone just throws their money into these companies. At that point, and I'm not even in the trading game like that to make that kind of projection, but I just know
you can see it. You can see it. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. Like, this is going to be one of the biggest things, and they even OpenAI has a crypto project called WorldCoin where they're trying to.
Well, Sam does. I think it's
Sam does, right?
Thing by Sam, yeah.
Sam does, yeah. But at this point, Sam is OpenAI. I mean, we saw how he interacts with his board members. He's almost on some mafia gangster shit. But the purpose of the crypto project is to identify every actual human by retinal scanning them. They have physical locations where you can go get retina scanned, and then you can buy into the crypto. And the purpose is that at some point the world will be so flooded with AI and robots and whatnot that you're going to have, it's going to be a premium, like we've been talking about, not just making human-made content, but just being a human. You know what I'm saying? And accessing different things, and I guess what he's looking for is that to be a point of sale or a point of contact for people to get through in and out of places, and there's a value attached to it via the crypto. So it might be something worth investing into. Yeah. I personally don't want to give my retinal scan. I don't want any biometric data to be out there, especially on a blockchain where it's locked in forever. But I'm gonna fight it as long as I can, because I don't think it's something that I'll be able to fight forever, for sure.
Well, to that point, so I use agents all the time, and I use these like agent controlled computer use browsers where the agent is surfing the internet for me.
Right.
And it hits some roadblocks sometimes, because there are certain websites that recognize that it's an AI agent and says, no, you're not allowed to access this site.
Right.
I think that's going to maybe transfer to this new version of the internet where needs to be some human verification of like a CAPTCHA to make sure that you're an actual human visiting the site, that you're a human consumer,
right,
not an AI agent. You know what I mean? And I think this is probably a step towards that, of saying like there's going to be more human verification across the board on the internet. And some people might prefer that and say, you know what, I will not allow with my business for AI agents to shop on my site or to browse my site. and there'll be some gated ways to verify that you're a human in order to get on the other side of that that browsing wall.
Right, right. Okay. Right. We got this next 5-10 years is, we got a lot to stay on top of. All right, last couple things real quick. Staying in China, we spoke before about new devices that will be our communicators that will have AI infused. This one isn't a communicator per se, but it's an AI device that I think will become really relevant if they mass produce it, especially. It's coming out of China right now. It's a smart pen, and it consumes the data in books and text and things, and then relays. I think right now that what people are thinking about the application is test, right? You read the question with the pen, and then it gives you the answer. So people are thinking, oh, I could just go in there and kind of cheat with the thing. But I mean, that's people a little short-sighted of thinking of how to use it, because I mean, how long before teachers be like, oh, well, you can't, I'm not going to let you use that pen in this class, like that's not a big deal. And right now it's only in Chinese. But again, I think the important part is that could be a device that gets co-opted around the world, that people start ingesting more data into the AI of any book or any type of text that's not been consumed already. So I think that's an important thing. And then the last thing I think is I saw something recently. GPTs are cool, but projects are better. Break down projects for me.
So the way that I use projects is, I run my business out of ChatGPT and several other platforms, but there are a set of conversations that are related to my business that I want to put in one folder, and then it's a mini RAG. So how do I explain RAG? So it's the way that ChatGPT will answer you based off of its understanding of a few conversations, a few documents. So think if your ChatGPT, right? Let's say you're a small business owner. 50% of your conversations are personal conversations, health, dating, therapy, looking up stuff from a TV show. And the other half are actually business related, right? So if you create a project in ChatGPT of all your business related conversations and threads, right, you put all that in there. So that way, when you have a conversation with a project, it's finding you an answer. It's giving you an answer based off of your previous business threads in that project,
right?
And then you can share that project with your other team members, and now you all have that folder of business related threads and folders and documents and history and memory and all that, and you separate that from all your personal stuff.
Okay.
And I think that probably can go a little more expanded than creating a custom GPT, because I think even with a custom GPT right now, you can only give it 10 documents to upload.
I think it's 20.
20, it might have grown then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 20.
So, a custom GPT isn't going to have your previous history of all your threads, your previous conversations. You can really customize a custom GPT, and in Gemini they call them a custom gem, with here are the documents. I'm going to let you search the internet. I'm going to give you some instructions, and I'm going to give you some conversation starters. So anyone that uses this GPT, you can make it public facing. Be like, all right, and you share a link to a custom GPT that you made. Ak talked about she sells her custom GPTs, which is a great business idea. Giving out that link, and making it specify for that particular use case.
Yeah.
But for me internally, I find projects more useful to share across the team, making sure that we're all in the same project.
Okay.
MasterCard's one of my clients. We have a MasterCard project. So that way, when we talk to the MasterCard project, it's separate from any of our other client project folders,
Right. Smart. Okay, I get it. You can create a product with a GPT that could be for business, but you can keep all your business together with a project and really get it moving. All right, bet. All right, sounds good. Sounds like something people definitely need to start using. All right, so That's going to bring us to the wrap of another episode. We covered a lot. We got a lot of information. We're going to keep having information. I think the next time you see us, though, we're going to talk about some crypto stuff because there's a lot going on in the crypto space, which is going to relate to just how everybody is moving and shaking. So we need to start touching down there. So, all right. Until next time. We're going to be back at it. Until next time, I'm Tat Wizard.
I'm Abran.
All right, and this is Know Your Future. Peace.
Peace.
Know your future, know your future, know your future. Or get stuff into the hooper.